Alright, today we're doing Ethereum only. No quick prediction, no 10 different coins, no noise. We're going top to bottom on ETH, the macro picture, the key levels, market structure, momentum, liquidity, and the exact conditions that would flip my bias bullish or bearish. Because let's be honest, Ethereum is one of those charts where one clean read can save you weeks of random trades. So here's how this video is going to work. I'll first show you where ETH is sitting right now, then we'll map the two main scenarios. What has to happen for continuation, and what would confirm a breakdown. And the best part, by the end, you'll have a simple plan with clear levels, not vibes. Quick note before we start, this video is not financial advice. I'm not your financial advisor, and I don't know your risk tolerance, your portfolio size, or your situation. Everything you're about to hear is for educational and informational purposes only. Crypto is volatile. You can lose money fast. So please do your own research, manage your risk, and never trade with money you can't afford to lose. With that said, let's pull up the chart and get into Ethereum. Alright, now that we know we're focusing on ETH only, let's do this properly. Before we zoom in and talk entries, we need the weekly chart, because the weekly is the map. The lower timeframes are just the GPS. So on the weekly, ETH is still trading inside this long-term rising channel that's been guiding price from the 2022 lows. And right now, the most important thing is this. Price has pulled back hard and is basically pressing into a major higher timeframe support area. You can see it here. This is the zone where buyers have historically stepped in, and it also lines up with the lower boundary of the channel. Now let's be clear, this doesn't automatically mean it has to bounce. It means we are at a point where the market is forced to make a decision, either defend support and build a base, or lose it and open the door for a deeper move. What I'm watching on the weekly is simple. If ETH can hold this area and start putting in higher lows, that's how a bigger reversal begins. Slow, ugly, and then suddenly everyone regrets selling. But if we start closing weekly candles below this support, then structurally, that's a warning sign. Because once a major level breaks on the weekly, lower timeframes can look bullish and still get wiped out. Now let's talk RSI, because it's a big deal here. Weekly RSI is sitting around the low 30s, basically flirting with oversold territory. And historically, when ETH's weekly RSI gets stretched like this, it often signals that selling pressure is getting exhausted. Not always a perfect bottom, but very often the point where downside slows down and volatility spikes. So the weekly story is major support plus compressed structure plus RSI stretched. That's the setup. Now, let's zoom into the 1 hour, because that's where the decision becomes visible. On the 1 hour chart, ETH has been moving between two clear horizontal zones, a top zone and a bottom zone, and inside that bigger range, price is also coiling into this contracting triangle. So think of it like this. ETH is boxed in horizontally and squeezed diagonally. That's literally a spring, and we're getting close to the end of the triangle, which usually means one thing. Volatility is about to return. Not a guarantee, but the closer you get to the apex, the more likely you see a sharp expansion, often within the next couple of sessions. Now here's the key part. This is where most people mess up. Inside a triangle like this, you can get chopped to death. So my rule is simple. I don't want to be a hero inside the triangle. I want the market to prove direction first. So what counts as proof? For a bullish scenario, I want to see price break above the triangle resistance, and more importantly, hold above it, ideally with a clean candle close, and then a retest that doesn't instantly fail. For a bearish scenario, same logic. Break below triangle support, clean close, and confirmation that the break is real, not just a wick. Until that happens, the best trade is often no trade. So the plan for the next 48 hours is basically be patient, let ETH pick a side, and then react. Don't predict. Alright, now that we've got the weekly map and the 1 hour setup, next I'm going to mark the exact levels I'm watching for the breakout and the retest, because that's where the clean risk is. Alright, now let's add the derivatives layer, because this is where a lot of people get trapped. This is the Binance ETH/USDT liquidation heatmap over the last 6 months. And if you've never used this before, here's the simple version. The brighter the colors, especially those yellow bands, the more liquidation levels are sitting there, meaning that's where a lot of leverage traders get forced out if price moves into that zone. And what I'm seeing right now is pretty clear. Most of the really heavy liquidity is still overhead. You can literally see these thick bands stacked above current price. Those are like magnets if ETH starts trending up. Below current price, there is liquidity too, but it's not as obvious or as thick compared to what's sitting above. So the market is basically sitting at a point where it can do one of two classic moves. Sweep down first, grab the nearby downside liquidity, flush late longs, scare everyone, and then potentially reverse into the bigger upside liquidity zones. or break up clean and start moving into those overhead liquidation clusters, which can fuel a very fast expansion. And this lines up perfectly with what we said on the 1 hour chart. We're compressing into the end of that triangle, so the next big move is likely going to be a liquidity-driven expansion, not a slow, polite trend. So I'm not predicting direction here, I'm just telling you where the market is incentivized to move when it finally chooses a side. Now let's look at open interest and the long/short accounts ratio, because this tells us how crowded the trade is. First, open interest. Open interest is basically the total amount of active leveraged positions in the market. Right now, OI is sitting around 10.25 billion, and the key point is it's not collapsing. That means leverage is still in the system, the market is still loaded, and that matters because when you have a compressed chart plus steady open interest, breakouts tend to be more violent because there's fuel. Now look at this. The long/short accounts ratio is roughly 73% longs versus 27% shorts. So the crowd is leaning long. And whenever the crowd leans heavily one way, you have to respect the risk. If ETH breaks down, there's a higher chance of a long squeeze, because there are a lot of longs that can get forced out quickly. If ETH breaks up, it can still rally, but I'm going to watch how it rallies. If price goes up while OI increases, that's fresh positioning. Stronger move. If price goes up but OI drops, that can be more like short covering and profit taking, less sustainable. So again, this doesn't give us a guaranteed direction, it gives us a risk map. Leverage is present and the crowd is mostly long, so the downside move, if it triggers, can be sharp, which is exactly why I keep repeating, don't trade inside the triangle, let the break confirm first. Alright, let's wrap this up. On the weekly, ETH is sitting at a major decision area and RSI is stretched, so we're in that zone where the market can either stabilize and base or break support and accelerate lower. On the 1 hour, we've got a clean range and a contracting triangle, and we're near the end, so a breakout is likely soon. And from the derivatives side, the heat map shows liquidity stacked overhead, open interest is still elevated, and the crowd is mostly long, meaning the next move can be fast, and chasing inside the chop is how you get wrecked. So my plan is simple. Wait for the break, wait for confirmation, then execute with clear invalidation. If you enjoyed this ETH deep dive, hit like, subscribe, and comment below. Are you bullish or bearish on Ethereum from here, and what level would change your mind? And if you want my real-time levels and updates as the breakout happens, check the link for the war room. Alright, see you in the next one.